Hello everyone, John here, your host on the Prepared Mind channel, back with more gun pandering news. You know, this is the type of stuff that just makes my fucking day. Today, Trump moves to ban bump stocks 4 months after Las Vegas shooting. Now, I personally have a couple of problems with this. You guys do too. It seems like Trump is pandering to who? To the anti-gun crowd because of the tragedy, the loss of people's lives. That is very much like capitulating to terrorists. Right? Because the bad guys know that here in America, they can get guns anytime they want. They can buy them here. They can import them here. And there's nothing more that they would like than to have a population of people who cannot protect themselves. That is where terrorists make their business the best. Right? That's where they do a great job of being terrorists. And while we're talking about that, schools continue to be gun-free zones, except criminals don't pay any attention to that. Just you and just me, just law-abiding citizens. So, why is Trump doing this, right? Well, the news headline here on Yahoo is 4 months after the Las Vegas shooting. As if it took this long for someone to come up with the idea about Las Vegas. Now, I know because of my background with law that what they're saying here, what they're proposing doesn't work. And we can read this here, right? What happened is President Trump announced he has signed a memorandum directing Attorney General Jeff Sessions to propose new regulations that would ban devices that can effectively turn legal weapons into machine guns. The regulations, right, this is a bunch of sophistry. That is the use of words and ideas that aren't true. They're lies, in other words. A machine gun has a very specific statutory meaning, the same as an assault weapon does. These weapons don't qualify as that. But what I want to do is say, is this pandering by Trump? Is he stalling them? Is he creating an argument? This is where I'm wondering, is this part of a Trump strategy to get everyone just to shut up and go away? You see, my problem, as soon as I heard that the Attorney General is going to do regulations to ban something, I don't think that the Attorney General has the authority to do any such thing. Nor does the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. Because what they're doing is they're messing with rights, people's right to own and possess and use property. Where does their authority come from? Right. So, now interestingly, right, Senator Feinstein, the ranking Democrat on the Senate Judiciary Committee, released a statement underscoring her contention that the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives does not have the authority to ban bump stocks, and that, quote, legislation is the only answer, close quote. The agency made this clear in a 2013 letter to Congress, writing that stocks of this type are not subject to the provisions of federal firearms statutes, Feinstein said. She goes on to say, if the ATF and E, I guess they get to use explosives these days, tries to ban these devices after admitting repeatedly that it lacks the authority to do so, that process could be tied up in court for years, Feinstein said, and that would mean bump stocks would continue to be sold. Now, this is one of the few times you're going to hear John say, I agree with Feinstein. They don't have the authority. And she's right. Right? They're going to get tied up in court because the ATF and E has stated repeatedly they don't have the authority. And I don't think they have the authority either. And to go further, I don't think the Congress has the authority either because of this little known provision. It's tucked away inside the Constitution. It's called the Second Amendment. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. It is so simple. Infringe means to get close to. It doesn't mean crush and kill and remove and legislate away. It means infringe. Even get close to, infringing upon. Right? The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. It doesn't say arms that don't have bump stocks. It doesn't say muskets that are single shot. It doesn't limit it to bolt action or sporting rifles or hunting weapons. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. The purpose of arms, it's not anything to do with hunting. It's everything to do with self-defense. Defense of self, defense of nation, defense of state. She's absolutely right. So why did Trump do this? Right, the bump stock was made popular in the public mind because of the Las Vegas Mandalay Bay massacre, where they claimed that bump stocks were used to simulate full auto fire by semi-automatic weapons. Right? And this now comes out just days after the Florida school shooting. Now, I can see how the pressure is being brought to bear on the Trump administration, because there has been so much rancor, so much furor brought up over that shooting down there in Florida. But who makes the noise? Really, who makes the noise? Political activists make noise. Who are the biggest anti-gun political activists out there? The Democrat Party and the mainstream media. They're the ones making the noise. They're screaming and yelling their heads off. Now here's another one. The students down there. Let me read this from this article also. Okay. After the shooting in Parkland, a number of students have called for marches across the country to promote new gun restrictions. Now, what is a number of students? Is a number of students less than the number of adults who are members of the National Rifle Association? Is a number of students more important than a number of adults? Right? You can actually put a number to the number of NRA members. What the fuck is a number of students? What is that, a handful? A dozen maybe? Right? How many students are out there saying, we don't want less guns, now we want more. We want to be able to protect ourselves as students. We want our teachers to have guns to protect us. How about that? Here's a public works project. Put a police officer at every school. Now, in the event of an emergency somewhere else, he can leave because, gun shootings at schools don't happen all that often. But why not have a cop at every school? Simple. In fact, I think a lot of schools do. Right? This is what kills me, is it's the lack of reason and logic. There's a number of students that my son talks to that want more guns, not less. They want more of the right of self-defense to exist, not less. But it's this type of thinking that is destroying our nation and has destroyed many nations and led them to communism, socialism, tyranny, dictatorships, right? And once again, here we go. Students. What do students really know? Well, I just identified students who oppose these other students. Are students going to be allowed to vote? Do their votes count? Here's another question. Do their votes actually matter? No, they're just students. They're just kids. They're not even legal adults. Right? They're not old enough to buy a beer. They're not old enough to buy a gun. They're barely old enough to have jobs and driver's licenses. Right? They're just students, and I'm not putting them down. But they don't have legal rights. I'm sorry, too bad, that's the way it is. You don't get a say in things. And going to the White House and laying down on the ground, I guess, simulating a corpse, doesn't preempt my rights or yours. The reason I'm talking to you about this again is we all need to go out and, as adults, have these conversations, interact with other adults. but understand that there's an underlying agenda here. So students, what do? What are students? Students are children. As parents, we need to protect them. Do we obey our children? Do children dictate to us how to live our lives? Do we listen to children and say, where should I invest my money? Where should I work? What should I do? No, we say, we're adults. We know better. Right? So here we go back to this. So this children thing, it's always put up, it's for the children, and the children want this and that. I'm going to hearken you back to Janet L. Reno, the Attorney General under Bill Clinton. At the Waco incident, the Waco tragedy, where more than 17 people were killed by government forces. Look into it. In fact, I'm going to have to do a conspiracy theory video where I talk about a variety of incidents that have occurred and link to the documented and well laid out documentaries, right, exposés, and show you exactly, right, how things actually work. This is a problem, right? People thinking that they need to listen to children. People not listening to reason. This is what's leading this country to hell. We should really make, for example, the LGBTQ agenda priority. No, it's ridiculous. It's pandering to these ridiculously small special interest groups. We need to get away from that. But in the meantime, we need to prepare, because these idiots are the ones who are really pushing the hardest. They're yelling the loudest. A number of children apparently has as much weight as the rest of the world with common sense. The answer is no, it should not be done. Now, back to Trump, President Trump, right? He has said that we need to have the Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, right? Let me quote this properly here. Propose new regulations that would ban devices. The bump stock. Trump goes on to also say here, let me read it down. The key in all of these efforts, as I said the day after the shooting, is that we must not take actions that make us feel like we are making a difference. We must take actions that actually make a difference. So what the hell is he doing with Jeff Sessions and telling him to screw with regulations that he has no authority and that make them untenable? Is this just to make those people who are operating on feelings feel like the president's doing something? If Trump is really anti-gun, then I'm not pro-Trump. But is he doing a rope-a-dope? At every turn since he's been elected, Trump has at times appeared to be way off base and has in fact been, what? Throwing out the hook and reeling in the Democrats and making them look stupid. He's done a great job of it. Very admirable in that sense that he's outwitted these clowns. But in this case, is he outwitting himself, or once again appearing to take action where none is being taken to quell stupidity? Right? And Feinstein is right in my opinion. Sessions has no authority. Neither does the BATF&E. So will this make everyone on the left and these poor kids who are being riled up? They're not being killed in wholesale fashion. Kids aren't. No, they're not. Every now and then shit like this happens. Right? But is Trump just getting everyone pacified while they go through the process? Right? Instead of acting on feelings, do as he suggests. Take actions that actually make a difference. So Sessions goes through the exercise, and it's revealed after it's discovered that he actually has no authority, and neither does the BATF&E. And so then they have to go through the legislative process. And in a few months, guess what? Americans who are, by and large, so lazy and ignorant of the law and what they had for dinner the night before that they're going to forget about this. And I don't think it's nice, but that's the way it works. The same way Americans have forgotten that rights are inalienable, coming from God, not from government. Inalienable, meaning they cannot be taken away from you, except by force, right, and fiat, fake, despotism, tyranny. That's the only way to take them from you, and it's by force, not by law. So, is Trump just throwing some placebo out to the scared fish? I'm going to say yes, because I can't understand how somebody could be that ridiculous to think that outlawing bump stocks is going to change anything. It's absolutely ridiculous. But in any event, what this demonstrates, if you take everything into account, don't just take this story for today. Take what I talked about the other day, and many people are talking about, and they're putting together right now, is the Parkland school shooting false flag evidence. There is a war on. There's one that everyone gets to see on the news, and then there's one where people know what's being done. Actions are being orchestrated in order to push an agenda. The agenda is designed to take your guns, to take your ability to have self-defense. So what is Trump doing? He's throwing them a red herring. Yeah, let's get rid of bump stocks. I'm doing something, right? And of course Feinstein's like, that's not what we need. That's not what we need. Because it's not going to work. And I'm like, right, it's not going to fucking work. Feinstein's right. But that level of understanding of law and regulatory process and the Code of Federal Regulations and the whole bit is lost on the rest of the planet. It goes over their fucking head. Right? It's a procedural screw up. They don't matter. They don't matter. Right? So is this just a stalling tactic by Trump? I'm going to say yes, it is. Do we need to worry about this? No. In fact, we need to have a louder discussion about it. We don't need to, as gun owners, apologize for the bump stock or high-capacity magazines or for the most versatile, useful weapon ever designed by man. And he designed it 50 years ago. Stoner. The AR-15 platform, which started as the M16 and the civilian legal version is the AR-15. It has a collapsible stock, so no matter how long or short your arms are, it fits. It's made out of aluminum and plastic, so it's light, which means women and men, small people, strong people, they can all use it. It accepts high-capacity magazines to make it less confusing when you have to use it in defense of yourself or your nation. It's the most amazing weapon. It shouldn't be blacklisted. It should be heralded as a modern marvel that continues to serve mankind well. Right? Stop apologizing for this kind of crap. We need to have this discussion. The Second Amendment is there for a reason. Now, if our government, if Feinstein could stand up and say, look, there are no more despots. There's no more corruption and greed and theft. There's no more murder. There's no more kidnapping and human trafficking. So we don't need the Second Amendment anymore because governments never violate the rules. That would be one hell of an argument to make. And then go, well, it hasn't happened for 100 years either. Except that's a fucking lie. Right? Think about it. There are tyrants and despots all over the world. The United States government itself appears to be split in two, with a good side and a bad side. There is a human trafficking problem because the president says there was, right? And he's going after them. Huge investigations for corruption and theft are going on. Governments are blackmailing each other and trying to use extortion. There's monetary wars going on. The United States government uses economic sanctions to muscle the fuck out of their potential enemies to get them to behave. If that's not tyranny, then why were the colonial Americans pissed off at the King of England for doing it to Boston and other major seaports? Because economic warfare is warfare, and governments are engaged in it, and human trafficking exists, and laws are being broken. So the government can't be trusted because they lie. They lie. They lie. We need our guns and our Second Amendment for that purpose alone. Children need to be told, you can have an opinion, but you're not an adult. Children need to be taught, You don't run the show. Telling children, well, you get to make a difference. Well, that's giving children a sense of disillusionment. And when they find out they've got actually no power, you're going to break their little hearts. Don't do that to them. As a Marine, if someone got shot, did they pull us aside and go, now everyone stop crying? Stop crying, Marines. Somebody got shot. We'll take care of this. No. They said is don't let that happen again. You take the enemy out. You protect yourself. Act like a man. Instead of telling these children, lay on the ground and act like a corpse. Man, I got to tell you, right? Got to tell you. Alcohol. Alcohol kills more people than guns every year. Through liver cirrhosis, right? Drunk drivers, people who OD. There's probably more people killed in college frat parties from overdosing and drugs. How about just ruining their fucking lives with alcoholism? Yet, alcohol persists. Why? Because we're human beings and we're adults and we have a right to it. They tried banning it once, called prohibition. Didn't work. Actually caused more crime to occur than otherwise. You want to get rid of guns? You're going to cause more crime to occur otherwise. That's just the way it works. You're going to have crime either way. You might as well not screw with people's rights to protect themselves. In any event, no matter how you look at this, as preppers, we need to understand that this fucking mentality is out there. People have this kind of thinking. And they represent a massive threat to our way of life. Right? They're allowed to have their opinions. But when they get behind government and government uses force, because that's what government is, it is force. When they use government to force their will upon you, you become more of a servant to everyone else instead of being free. This is servitude. Hey, if we can get rid of bump stocks, why not just turn your guns in? Turn them in, Mr. and Mrs. America. Oh, wait, that's a quote from Dianne Feinstein, except she didn't have the votes to get it. So she got stopped. You don't back off and go, well, it's just the bump stock, we'll let it go. Fuck that. You don't let anything go, because next it'll be high-capacity magazines again. A high-capacity magazine never hurt anybody. You know what did? Killers. Killers hurt people. You want to know who else hurts people? Legislatures. Executive officers. Bankers who are not held responsible. They have hurt way more people than the AR-15. And I could do this all fucking day. I could come up with incredible amounts of people with power and authority who hurt others. And it leads to not only death, but financial ruination. The banking and investment crimes that go on daily in Wall Street and are only evident at times of collapse. The bond bubble, .com bubble burst in 2001. The crash of 2007, 2008. People lost their lives over that. I mean, literally, either they shot themselves, they lost their homes and became homeless, they lost their entire fortunes. Remember, it's our sacred lives, families, and fortunes. The right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Those are the things government is supposed to protect. But it didn't stop the bankers and all those stock market traders who screwed everyone out of their money. You want to talk about ruining people's lives. Not just children, but the men and women. In the millions were affected by that. Millions of people. Businesses that were destroyed. Jobs that were lost. People that committed suicide. And you're worried about bump stocks. It's incredible to me when you think about it. Looking at the bigger picture. What does alcohol do? Terrible. Right? It's legal. Fuck, apparently people on Wall Street got no problem. Steal everyone's money. Well, it's an investment, so therefore you can profit off of someone else's efforts that way. Because they're too ignorant to understand that their money is free game when it's poured in the middle of Wall Street. Anyone can just run along and pick it up and say, it's mine now. Right? There are numerous examples. Automobiles, extremely dangerous. How about chemicals? You know, it's absolutely asinine to me. How many people are killed by the medical industry every year? Oh, it's all by accident. How about negligence? A lot of people die by negligence. I've got one hospital in my area, and I hear countless stories about it. Horrifying stories. I can't tell you how many people don't have gallbladders in my particular area because the hospital here likes to take them out. You got to sneeze, they'll take out your gallbladder. I mean, it's just incredible. That type of thinking. It is just, I don't mean to go down a crazy tangent, but it's unfathomable to me that an incident occurs and you punish the rest of America. Incredible. Incredible. But it's this type of thinking that leads me to believe that we need to be preppers. Because if things were getting better, things would be getting better, but they're not. They're getting worse. We're going further down the road to shit hitting the fan. Why? Because people are not using their brains. They don't think. They don't think past a knee-jerk reaction. A 19-year-old man went to a school and shot people and killed them. What's the problem right there? It's not the gun, it's the tool. He could have stolen a garbage truck, like the one that was used on the train full of Republicans. And he could have driven that garbage truck and plowed through a what do you call it? A gaggle of kids, a mess of kids. Right? He could have done that. You know, it's incredible to me the number of ways that terrorism can take place. But it's always the gun that people like Feinstein and Chuck Schumer and Sanders, the idiot, and the rest of these knuckleheads want. They want your guns taken away. Not because it's the most dangerous, most deadly thing out there, but because it's your best effort. Your best tool for your self-defense efforts, I should say. That's what we have going here. They need to be stopped. This conversation needs to be had, and it needs to be explained by intelligent people. And while they're having this discussion as adults, Feinstein can go outside and lay in the grass and act like a corpse with the rest of the children. While the adults have a real discussion about reality, about despotism, about rights, about our history, and about our future. Right? About what you and I need to do as Americans. We need to be prepared. Because it is not a perfect world. Now, I'm going to leave it there. And I'm going to say, as you're thinking about being a prepper, I am starving to death. I'm starving to death. One of the things I like about, and I'm going to do this because it takes 15 minutes. Bam! I'm going to get some of this Thrive Life stuff I got, and I'm going to eat it. Right? Some prepper food. I told you guys, food, shelter, medicine, clothing, everything, guns, and a plan. Right? I like using my prepper food so I can eat it and practice at it. It is tasting good. So anything you need for prepping, go to the preparedmind.club, look around and shop. And there needs to be an understanding about our history and philosophy. So I'm going to talk to Jolene, the site administrator, and see if we can't get some history books put on the club to talk about why the Second Amendment is the Second Amendment. It wasn't the third or the fourth or the 10th. It was the second. The right to free speech was number one. But without number two, you can't protect number one. And without number one, number two really can't be used either. If they can control our speech, who's going to tell you to go get your gun? And I guess out of a sense of orderly discussion, they didn't put them into the same amendment, but perhaps they should have. Perhaps the First and Second Amendments should have been, you have the right to say whatever the fuck you want, and if someone tells you no, you get to use your gun to fix the problem. Anyways, I'm going to get some nutritional, tasty prepper chow for dinner. And I'm going to wish you guys a good day and keep your eyes open. Chance favors the prepared mind. Don't let yours go to waste. Don't let these people sucker you in. Right? And let's see what Trump really does and what his plan is. He hasn't screwed up yet with these morons. Right? I can't say I like all the deficit spending, but he's actually done a rope-a-dope on these Democrats. 1, 2, 3. And Feinstein is not stupid. It's a smart lady. I'm not saying she's a moral lady, but she's smart. And she knows that this, what he is proposing, while it's going to placate the masses, has nothing to do with what's actually going to make any substantive changes. So, Senator Feinstein, you can go put that in your bowl and smoke it. And for the rest of you guys, I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.